At the beginning of the film, Emily visits a prison to meet her husband Martin, who is an inmate. After the meeting, she goes to work and informs her boss that she will not come the next day because it is an important day for her, and her boss grants her leave. It is revealed that Martin is in prison for illegal stock market activities. The next day, Emily arrives at the prison with her mother-in-law to welcome Martin on his release day. After his release, they return to their apartment and spend time together after a long separation. Martin tells Emily about a very rich fellow inmate who will be released soon and promises that they will recover their lost wealth, but Emily is unhappy with this idea. The following morning, Emily intentionally crashes her car into a wall. She survives and meets psychiatrist Dr. Jonathan Banks, who realizes the accident was a suicide attempt. Emily refuses to explain her distress but insists she must go to her husband, who was released after 4 years. She promises not to harm herself again and agrees to regular checkups, so Dr. Jonathan discharges her and prescribes medication for her depression. A few days later, Emily attends a therapy session. She tells Dr. Jonathan that she met Martin in New York while studying graphic designing at age 23 and married him immediately. When asked about previous treatment, she mentions Dr. Victoria. Jonathan meets Victoria, who explains that Emily once lived a luxurious life, lost everything after Martin's imprisonment, and became depressed. Victoria suggests a new drug called Ablixa, which has shown positive results. Later, Emily attends a large party with Martin, becomes anxious, goes to the bar, and breaks down crying. Martin comforts her and takes her away. In the final scene, Emily stands at a subway station, staring at an Ablixa advertisement, and suddenly moves toward the tracks, seemingly attempting suicide, but a security officer pulls her back in time. Emily suddenly appears in a panicked state in front of Dr. Jonathan while he is with his wife Deirdre and tells him she has just tried to commit suicide. Realizing the seriousness of the situation, Jonathan sends his wife away and takes Emily to a hotel to calm her down. Emily explains that her old medication makes her dizzy and sleepless and says that her coworker Julia suggested a new drug called Ablixa. Jonathan recalls that Dr. Victoria had also mentioned this medicine, so he allows Emily to take it. Emily buys Ablixa from a medical store. After starting Ablixa, Emily's condition improves, and Martin feels relieved. They try to rebuild their lives, but one night Emily suddenly plays loud music, prepares breakfast at midnight, and behaves strangely. Martin realizes she may be sleepwalking due to the medicine. The next day, he informs Jonathan. Martin wants Emily to stop the drug, but she refuses because she feels better. Jonathan then prescribes additional medicines to control the sleepwalking. Soon after, Martin leaves for a business trip and tells Emily they may move to Houston for a new job. When he returns a few days later, he finds food prepared for 3 people and sees Emily calmly chopping vegetables. As he approaches her, Emily suddenly stabs him repeatedly, killing him. She remains calm afterward, goes to bed, and falls asleep. When the police arrive, Emily claims she remembers nothing and only found her husband dead. Jonathan later learns at the police station that Emily has been arrested for murder. The public prosecutor questions him about Emily's condition, and Jonathan explains that sleepwalking can be a side effect of her medication. The prosecutor warns him that if Emily is guilty, the case is simple, but if wrong treatment caused the murder, Jonathan will be blamed. Jonathan insists the situation is complex. Jonathan visits Emily in jail, but she still claims memory loss and says she no longer wants to take medicines. Jonathan consults Dr. Victoria, who reassures him that doctors are not responsible for patients' actions and says Emily will not be punished due to her memory loss. Martin's mother visits Emily, devastated by her son's death. Emily again blames Ablixa and says she has written a statement to warn others. Martin's mother later reads Emily's apology letter on television, in which Emily blames the drug for everything. This public statement ruins Jonathan's reputation, as he prescribed the medicine. Reporters surround his home and office, and his family suffers. Clearing his name becomes critical for him. In court, Emily's lawyer argues that she was not in her senses during the murder. Jonathan testifies that Emily suffers from sleepwalking and is not dangerous. The court declares Emily not guilty but orders her confinement in a hospital until she is deemed safe. Emily is unhappy but accepts the decision. Meanwhile, Jonathan's firm blames him for damaging its reputation. Determined to prove his innocence, Jonathan researches Ablixa and finds an article by Dr. Victoria describing its dangerous side effects. When confronted, Victoria blames Jonathan for not stopping the medicine earlier. Jonathan then tracks down the garage worker from Emily's first accident and learns that Emily had been wearing her seatbelt, proving the crash was staged. Jonathan investigates Emily's workplace to find Julia, but discovers no such employee exists. That evening, he hears Wall Street news about the collapse of the Ablixa company and a sudden rise in its rival stock, confirming his suspicion of a major conspiracy. Jonathan meets Emily in jail again and proposes a truth serum injection, claiming it will help her relax and sleep. Emily agrees. Jonathan injects only water, records the session, and asks questions. When asked about the murder, Emily falls asleep, proving she was pretending all along. Jonathan presents this evidence to the prosecutor, but the exhausted prosecutor refuses to reopen the case and orders Jonathan to move on. Jonathan later visits the hospital and is shocked to see Dr. Victoria listed as a visitor. She admits Emily called her. Victoria then uses photographs of Jonathan and Emily at a hotel to blackmail him into silence. Jonathan's wife sees the photos and leaves him despite his explanations. That night, Victoria summons Jonathan and threatens to destroy his career if he continues investigating. Jonathan responds confidently, claiming he already knows the entire truth because Emily herself has confessed everything to him. Jonathan's bluff works, and Victoria becomes furious, angrily ordering him to leave and stay out of her and Emily's affairs. The next day, Jonathan visits the hospital and instructs the staff that no one is allowed to speak to Emily without his permission. He tells Emily that because she refuses medication, she will now receive electric shock therapy. Disturbed, Emily says she no longer wants him as her doctor. Jonathan then reveals that the idea came from Dr. Victoria, which shocks Emily. After Jonathan leaves, Emily panics, demands a phone call, and begins screaming when refused, forcing the staff to sedate her. Jonathan later meets Victoria, and Emily secretly watches them from a window. Jonathan tells Victoria that Emily wants to appear before a judge that week. Victoria becomes worried, but Jonathan assures her he has a plan that will benefit everyone. After they leave, Emily grows increasingly restless. The next day, Jonathan brings Emily more medicines. Feeling betrayed by Victoria, Emily ends her act and reveals the truth. In a flashback, it is shown that Emily was living a happy, wealthy life until Martin was arrested by the FBI and all their assets were seized. This trauma led her to depression and treatment under Dr. Victoria, with whom she eventually developed a physical relationship. Victoria taught Emily how to fake mental illness. Together, they planned that Emily would pretend to love Martin, act severely depressed, murder him, and blame the drug Ablixa's side effects so she would escape punishment. Another goal was to crash the drug company's stock and profit through a rival company. Emily reveals she never took any medicine and that Ablixa had no effect on her. She also admits that her suicide attempts were staged in public places to ensure witnesses. Shocked, Jonathan listens as Emily asks him to free her, offering him a share of the profits. At the next court hearing, Jonathan testifies that Emily is now mentally stable. The court orders her release under his supervision. Once freed, Emily immediately meets Victoria, and they celebrate. When Emily asks about the money, Victoria says it is safely kept in 2 Dubai bank accounts. However, Victoria then notices a hidden microphone under Emily's clothes and accuses her of betrayal. As Victoria tries to escape, police arrest her outside. The next day, Emily visits Jonathan's office, believing she is free. Instead, Jonathan prescribes new medicines, orders weekly tests, and warns her that disobedience will send her back to the hospital. Furious, Emily calls him a traitor. As she leaves, she sees a lawyer and Martin's mother, who now know the murder was intentional. Emily attempts to flee but is arrested again. In the final scenes, Jonathan's life returns to normal, and he happily reunites with his family. Emily is shown sitting silently in a room at a mental hospital, bringing the story to an end.